Have you noticed in Hosea how there's these sudden shifts from destruction to hope and then back to destruction? They almost give you whiplash as you read them. It happens in this section. Verse 1, Ephraim was exalted, but because of their idolatry, verse 3, their glory and fame will be like smoke escaping through the window. It'll drift away into nothingness. Or verse 14, God will rescue them from death. But verse 8, God will devour them like a lion and rip them open. Sudden shifts. And these sudden shifts don't come because God is inconsistent or erratic, constantly changing his mind like a toddler who wants things done their way, exactly their way, but their way changes every 2 minutes. God is not like humans we saw last week. So these sudden changes in the book, I think there's 2 reasons why they happen. The first is that's the style that Hosea used to put his book together. This is what good poetry does. It clashes ideas to make you think and feel things. It's dramatic and it's sudden. But second, I think it happens to show a deep truth. There is hope, but it's not found in ancient Israel. God says how desperately evil Israel are, and then there's a sudden shift as the same God says a promise to Israel. And there's 2 things that God highlights as evil in this section. Here's my attempt at labeling them, at labeling Israel's problems. I reckon verse 1 to 2, they've fallen into foolish idolatry. That's my label. They've fallen into foolish idolatry. They make these beautiful images, intricate, handcrafted. They express their culture. But when all's said and done, what are they doing? They're kissing metal calves. They're kissing pieces of metal to worship gods that don't even exist. That is so foolish, especially when they know the real God, the only God. Now, of course, we'd never do that, would we? We'd never collect pieces of metal, bits of silver and gold, and expect them to bring us happiness. That'd be foolish when the God of the Bible is the only really God who satisfies us. But of course, that's exactly what we do, and I do it, and you do it. So this is a good challenge for us. I think the second problem Israel has, here's my label, proud forgetfulness. Verse 4 to 6, proud forgetfulness. When you've got all you need, it's so easy to forget where it came from and to forget that all that we have in life that is good is from God. And it's so easy as a follow-on step from there to become proud and think our hard work, filled our fridges with food or our homes with beautiful things, our wardrobes with clothes, our lives with friends, instead of God's generosity to us who don't deserve any of it. That's what Israel have done. They've forgotten God, they've turned away from God, they've turned against God. Proud forgetfulness. And then, verse 14, out of their mess, God promises hope. There is hope, but it's not going to be found in ancient Israel. It's going to be found in God. Does God want to save and change us? Yes. He's willing and able, and that's what the promise of verse 14 is about. Here's what it says, I will deliver this people from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. Where, O death, are your plagues? Where, O grave, is your destruction? Immediately, though, it flips back again to more statements of judgment. Because this salvation, this rescue from death is still to come. And when does it come? It comes when the Son of God goes through death and punches out the other side. That's the first taste of death's defeat. And the final defeat will come when Jesus returns and our mortal bodies become immortal. In the words of Revelation 21, I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eye, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. There's a hope, and that hope is for us, but it's not found in us. We're just as undeserving as ancient Israel. Before being saved, we were just as guilty of idolatry and proud forgetfulness. And even as saved and forgiven believers who trust in Jesus, we're just as likely to stumble back into that. But God is willing and able to save, and he has in Jesus, the first taste of death's defeat. And he will for us who cling to Jesus to the very end.